morning, everyone, or actually good afternoon, my apologies, and a very warm welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us today for our first event in 2023 on the occasion of the Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM. At this event, which is going to talk about the road to End FGM, bringing good practices and stories from the ground. This event is co-hosted by the Swedish presidency of the Council of the EU, by MEP Evin Insir, by MEP Maria Rodriguez Ramos, and MEP Pierrette Herzberger Fofana. Thank you all so much for being here and everyone for the incredible support and for co-hosting this event on this very important day. Before I get started, I just want to go over a few house rules. This is for everyone to know, a hybrid event. So we have participants both in the room as well as online following. So to the people in the room, please refrain from talking over any of the speakers. However, if you want to ask any questions, especially during the Q&A, just raise your hands and I, as moderator, will call on you. For everyone online, if you do want to interact or ask a question, please feel free to write in the chat. We are moderating the chat, so we will then pick up your question and make sure to try and engage with you as well. Finally, just so that everyone is aware, this event is not just only online, but it's also recorded, and this will be then shared as well afterwards. So, for everyone's awareness. So, as I said earlier, my name is Anna Widegren, and I am the director of End FGM EU. As the leading organization in Europe working to end FGM, the European network operates as a meeting ground for communities, NGOs, CSOs at the EU level stakeholders to engage, interact, cooperate with one another and sharing experience and exchanging knowledge. We represent 36 organizations in 16 European countries, and we work every day to address the practice and to survivors. Our members, with their first-hand experience, bringing a wealth of expertise on what concrete measures and initiatives show promise towards uprooting FGM, are central to the network. This is also the focus of our event and the campaign that we are launching here today. Indeed, with the SDG goal of ending FGM by 2030, the deadline is fast approaching and unfortunately looking increasingly unrealistic. It is therefore high time that we turn our eyes to the expertise that we have at the grassroots level and what it can teach us about promising practices to stop FGM. These good practices have been mapped by the network in the first ever interactive map on FGM in Europe. And we have produced it with the aim of facilitating advocacy towards the implementation of important laws, policies, initiatives all across the continent in Europe. We hope that with this map and also this storytelling campaign that will unfold over this year, we will gather support from all key actors to take these steps in the right direction. Thank you so much once again for being here and talking about key allies that we work closely together with and support us in this endeavor. It is my pleasure to let our first co-host take the stage and welcome you all. And it is my honor to introduce MEP Evin Insir.
Thank you very much, and thanks to End FGM European Network event and the European Network for initiating this important discussion on how we combat and prevent FGM taking place in our union, but also we know that unfortunately people are even brought abroad, and the FGM is being conducted in other parts of the world also. And this is also a few of the different perspectives that we have had in mind when we have proposed the proposal for amendments on the directive on gender-based violence and domestic violence, which I will in a couple of minutes also maybe say a couple of words on. But violence against women still exists 2023, and I would say say that it's an echo from a medieval time, that not enough has been done to combat this violence that is taking place and is embodied in so many ways. It is taking place for decade after decade, century after century, in all societies and in all the different classes. So it's not only one part of the society that we can see this heinous violence taking place, but it really takes place in our whole society. And FGM is, of course, one of the worst forms of gender-based violence that take place in our union and beyond. And as I said, we have quite a lot to do together to ensure that the union is taking the situation for women and girls seriously, women and girls that are victims of FGM. And I would say that it hasn't been taken as seriously until now. And not at least that the directive hasn't been presented, as such a directive hasn't been presented before now, says it all, I would say. But nevertheless, it is good and important that we now have a proposal for gender-based, a directive on combating gender-based violence and domestic violence that also include combating FGM and preventing FGM, and not at least to ensure that the help that women and girls who are victims of FGM gets the support that they need. In this, of course, we need to ensure that the knowledge, the awareness of women and girls and the situation women and girls are in is increasing among the professionals that are working with them. So when you, for example, go and report such a violence, it shouldn't be taken lightly by those that are receiving the report, as the police, for example. And you need to be ensured that you will get all kind of healthcare, medical care that you are in need of, as well as we need to end impunity that still exists. And the proposal that is on the table right now, of course, also includes that regardless of where FGM takes place, if the person who is becomes victim of FGS is brought abroad and then brought back, the person who have conducted this violence should be punished regardless of where it takes place. It's not a matter of where it takes place, but it's a matter of if it takes place. So ending impunity is very much important to ensure that this doesn't continue taking place year after year, decade after decade. So enough is enough. That's what we are proposing with our proposal for a directive, and I will go a bit more in detail in the discussion that will take place in a couple of minutes. But once again, thank you very much for this initiative, and I look very much forward to the discussion and all your inputs that are so valuable for us to ensure that the proposals that we put forward here in the European Parliament are rooted in reality, are rooted in the ground, because you know best the situation and you also know best what is needed to end the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your inspiring words, and I couldn't agree more that we do have a lot to do together, and it's also so great to hear that you're here to work with us and to listen to what is the reality on the ground. So thank you once again. Our second co-host is MEP Rodriguez Ramos, who unfortunately is traveling and therefore cannot be here with us live today, but she has kindly sent us a video to welcome you all. So if we could please play that video. Thank you.
En primer lugar, quiero agradecer a la Red Europea de Lucha contra la Mutilación Genital Femenina la organización de este evento, que nos da la oportunidad de debatir sobre este tema en un día como el Día Internacional de la Tolerancia Cero contra la Mutilación Genital Femenina. La mutilación genital femenina es una violación de los derechos fundamentales. Es una manifestación brutal de la violencia de género contra las mujeres, contra el abuso de las niñas en el mundo. Y tenemos que tener un compromiso para eliminarla de nuestras sociedades. Tenemos que ser conscientes también del daño que a lo largo de la vida arrastran las víctimas de esta forma de violencia. Si queremos realmente conseguir los objetivos del desarrollo del milenio, de erradicar todas estas prácticas nocivas, incluida la mutilación genital femenina, tenemos que ser conscientes que tenemos que avanzar de manera mucho más rápida de cómo lo hemos hecho hasta ahora. Tenemos que incrementar 10 veces más nuestros esfuerzos de lo que lo hemos hecho en los últimos 15 años. Hay algunas razones para ser optimistas, pero tenemos que ser muy conscientes que millones de mujeres y niñas siguen hoy sufriendo el riesgo de ser mutiladas. Hay algunas razones para la esperanza porque sabemos que en las últimas 2 décadas los datos que nos dan la prevalencia de la mutilación genital femenina ha disminuido una cuarta parte. Y también que hay mucha más conciencia en los países de alta prevalencia donde se practica esta forma de violencia contra mujeres y niñas, las mujeres que son contrarias y las niñas que son contrarias a esta práctica se ha doblado. Pero desde aquí, desde Europa, tenemos que seguir trabajando. Tenemos ahora un instrumento muy importante, que es la nueva directiva contra la violencia de género, contra mujeres y niñas y la violencia familiar. Para nosotros en estos momentos esta directiva tiene que ser prioritaria, porque en ella tenemos que incluir la mutilación genital femenina como una forma de violencia contra las mujeres. Y con ello tenemos que lograr que todos los Estados miembros lo recojan como delito en sus legislaciones nacionales, pero también y a la vez que podamos homogeneizar cómo perseguir este delito y sobre todo medidas para poder atender a las víctimas de este delito en territorio europeo. Tenemos que trabajar y hacer muchos esfuerzos para trabajar en todos los sectores, en el ámbito de la inmigración, en el ámbito de las políticas de asilo, especialmente en el ámbito de la educación y en la educación sexual y reproductiva. Si realmente queremos conseguir el objetivo de tolerancia cero en la mutilación genital femenina, tenemos que trabajar de forma holística para poder erradicar las causas profundas de esta forma de violencia. En todo caso, el Parlamento Europeo ha reiterado su compromiso en la lucha contra la mutilación genital femenina, lo hizo en la pasada resolución del 2020, pero yo quiero decir otra vez, una vez más, que el Parlamento Europeo debe reforzar todos sus instrumentos, sus esfuerzos para contribuir a la erradicación de la mutilación genital femenina en el mundo. No podemos olvidar que más de 4 millones de niñas están en riesgo y pueden sufrir esta violencia cada año. Ellas son realmente las que necesitan un verdadero compromiso de todos los países y especialmente de la Unión Europea, de los países miembros de la Unión Europea, un verdadero compromiso para mostrarlas que hay un futuro diferente para ellas. Por eso, muchísimas gracias de nuevo a la Red Europea de Lucha contra la Mutilación Genital Femenina por la organización de este evento y, sobre todo, muchísimas gracias a todas estas organizaciones por su compromiso en la lucha para erradicar esta lacra. Muchas gracias y muy buenos debates.
We would like to thank MEP Rodríguez Ramos for this, for co-hosting this event, but also for the continued commitment to working together towards ending FGM. As I mentioned earlier, we also, as co-hosts, have the Swedish presidency of the Council, which took office in January, and we are very honored to have them here today. It is also my pleasure to give the floor to the State Secretary, to the Minister of Gender Equality, Mr. Martin Andreasson, for his keynote speech, who will be joining us virtually from Sweden.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here with you today as a representative of the presidency of the Council of the European Union. I would like to thank the End FGM European Network for the opportunity to speak at this important event on the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. FGM is a form of violence against women and girls and a human rights violation. Each and every girl and woman shall have the right to decide over her own body, her life, and her sexuality. According to the United Nations, over 200 million women and girls alive today have experienced female genital mutilation. Although these harmful practices are mainly practiced in countries outside of the European Union, hundreds of thousands of girls and women are living with the consequences of FGM within the European Union. And let me be very clear, honor-related violence and oppression, such as FGM, has no place in our society. We need to continue our efforts to prevent and eliminate FGM, to protect survivors through specialist service support, and raise awareness about this abuse that affects the lives of hundreds of thousands of girls and women in the European Union. And we need to make sure that perpetrators are being held accountable. Sweden remains firmly committed to protecting and defending international law and fulfilling its international human rights obligations, such as the Istanbul Convention and its Article 38 on criminalization of conducting female genital mutilation. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Institute for Gender Equality, EIGE, has estimated that between 3 and 19% of girls living in Sweden that have originated from countries where FGM is more commonly practiced are at risk of FGM. Stopping all forms of men's violence against women, including FGM, is a priority issue for the Swedish government. The national strategy in Sweden to prevent and counter men's violence against women and all forms of honor-related violence and oppression, including FGM, has a particular emphasis on preventive measures and addresses violence against women and girls based on their gender. It also addresses violence to which women and girls are particularly exposed or which has a particularly severe impact on women and girls in general, including FGM. The action program for the Swedish government for the period 2021 to 2023 contains strengthened efforts to include people with specific vulnerabilities in the work to combat men's violence against women. As part of this program, the Agency for Youth and Civil Society has carried out information initiatives regarding health and gender equality for newly arrived and asylum-seeking children and young people. The information covers issues such as honor-related violence and oppression, including female genital mutilation. And this work has resulted in a website, umo.se, where information is provided both in Swedish, simple Swedish and English, and in the most common languages among the target group, Dari, Tigrinya, Arabic, and Somali. The Swedish government acknowledges that the harmful practice of FGM is widespread and that the victims are also in Sweden and also the people at risk. It has therefore commissioned several authorities to work together and to take measures to enhance their knowledge and their routines to prevent FGM, and to give sufficient support to those affected. This work is currently being implemented across our country through a multi-stakeholder cooperation, which includes a wide spectrum of national agencies, such as the Police Authority, the Migration Agency, the Gender Equality Agency, and the National Centre Against Honour-Related Violence and Oppression, among others. In January this year, the government entered into an agreement with the Association of Local Authorities and Regions. In accordance with this agreement, the regions are offered grants to, among other things, carry out initiatives for more accessible, equal, and knowledge-based healthcare for girls and women who have been exposed to sexual violence and genital mutilation. This includes ensuring that all patients must be offered both somatic and psychiatric specialized care if necessary. This also includes increasing healthcare professionals' knowledge of sexual violence and genital mutilation, its consequences and how it can be detected, as well as improving their treatment of the target group. Ladies and gentlemen, internationally, Sweden is proud to support the UNFPA and UNICEF joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation, delivering the global promise to end FGM. Together with other donors, such as the European Union through the Spotlight Initiative and several other member states of the European Union, we are firmly committed to contribute to ending FGM by 2030 through accelerated collective and multi-sectoral action by mobilizing a broad spectrum of actors at community, national, regional, and global levels. Gender-based violence is a manifestation of historically unequal power relations between women and men. Violence against women is one of the crucial social mechanisms by which women are forced into a subordinate position compared to with men. Accordingly, the structural nature of violence against women must be recognized, and gender-based violence must be eradicated, as well as honor-related violence and harmful practices such as FGM. We need to keep this priority high on our agenda. And this is why the current EU presidency trio, France, the Czech Republic and Sweden, have chosen to pay special attention to gender-based violence within our trio presidency declaration on gender equality. Adopting and implementing strong and effective measures to prevent and combat gender-based violence is essential to protecting EU rights and values. The Swedish presidency is committed to achieve progress on the proposal for a directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence. Furthermore, we will give priority to the Istanbul Convention and continue the work towards the On a final note, FGM has a serious impact on the lives and health of women and girls, including their sexual and reproductive health and rights. It is not enough to be against FGM. We must be actively against it. The work must continue. Thank you all for your important contributions in this work. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much to Mr. State Secretary Andreasson for your words and for reminding us of the importance of recognizing FGM as a form of gender-based violence, and also how important it is for us to continue working and committing to working against FGM. Now we have come to the moment of our very exciting panel of this event. So I would like to please ask the panelists to join us here, and then I will introduce you all once you are seated. Thank you. So we have a very exciting panel today, made up of, well, on my opposite side, we have Maria Molica, who's a policy officer at the European Commission in DG Just. Then we have Roland Zanga, who is an artist and who will well, explain a little bit more about his work contributing towards ending FGM during the panel discussion. Then you have already met MEP Evin Insir, who is co-hosting today. And last but definitely not least, we have Emmanuel Osei-Wusu, who is a change mediator for our member organization, Lesan. Welcome to you all. We are so excited to have you joining us here today. On the panel discussion talking about good practices and innovative paths towards eliminating the practice. We're going to start off with a question that I would like all of you to answer. And if you can just tell us what is your main area of focus to end FGM and why is this a priority for you? Maybe MEP Insir, you would like to start?
Absolutely. Well, the main area that we're working on is actually to ensure that there is EU-wide legislation in place right now to ensure that it's being prevented and null tolerance exists all through the member states. So this is actually a very important work that is taking place right now. And as I said in the introduction, also all kind of knowledge that you have is very important, of course, for us to take into account into the legislation process that is taking place right now to ensure that the legislation actually targeted what it should target, and you are the ones that know it best. And we have also, I should say, in addition to that FGM will be criminalized, we have also added in the proposal for a directive honor crime as an aggravated circumstance as a part of the crimes to ensure that honor at large also is being combated and prevented all through the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, continuing on with Emmanuel Osei-Wusu, could you tell us maybe what your area of focus is and why it is a priority for you?
Thank you very much, and I'm really honored today to also be here, your honorable MEP. My area of combating FGM and GBV is basically with our fellow men. All these fight against FGM cannot be fought by ladies or our women, our girls. So what sometimes the men doesn't see is they don't cooperate with the system, how it's been done. And also we also don't see what the men are also going through to help. Some of the men doesn't even know the effect that is out of the women. So we, the men at this time, we trying all our best to educate ourselves and then see how we can also end this practice. And today, being the day of zero tolerance, here cannot be the least place to discuss it. It's really good to have this discussed here. And we, the men, like I said, championing the to end this FGM. When we come to the other discussion, then I'll go deeper to where we are at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, maybe I could ask Maria Monica to answer why this is a priority for you.
Well, why this is a priority for me, it's very simple. FGM is simply unacceptable. No one should be allowed to intervene on the body of a girl to exert control and domination on her. And now to answer the other question, my main area of focus to end FGM, well, I'm a lawyer by education and a policy maker by practice, so I was very happy to engage this expertise in the work that we have been carrying out at the European Commission for the drafting of the proposal for a directive to combat violence against women and domestic violence, and also in the preparation of the future recommendation on harmful practices against women and girls, which will cover a number of those practices, including FGM, of course. So with these two instruments, the intention is to tackle FGM, among other forms of gender-based violence, from the legal and the policy angle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Roland Zanger, please. The floor is yours.
Voilà, bonjour mesdames et messieurs, merci aux organisateurs de me donner cette opportunité. Moi, j'ai été amené à m'intéresser au MGF très récemment, puisque c'est le Fonds des Nations Unies pour la population qui m'a contacté en été et m'a demandé de contribuer avec un travail artistique, puisque je suis peintre et dessinateur. Et ça a donné ce tableau, je crois que vous avez vu à l'entrée. C'est un tableau qui est actuellement à New York et qui fait plus ou moins 2 mètres. J'en parlerai un peu plus tard. Pour moi, il y a 2 secteurs, en fait. Il y a le secteur de l'éducation et comment on peut utiliser les artistes, on peut utiliser l'apport des artistes pour amener un changement dans la lutte contre les MGF. L'éducation, c'est très simple. Moi, j'ai vécu et je vis encore entouré de femmes qui ont été éduquées, qui ont été instruites. Même ma mère était institutrice.
Vous pouvez parler avec un peu plus proche à la...
Sorry. Pardon, sorry. Je me suis emballé. Donc, je suis entouré de femmes qui elles-mêmes sont éduquées. J'ai une fille qui fait du droit. J'ai une nièce qui est ingénieure. Et on voit comment l'éducation peut affranchir une personne du poids de la société, peut la rendre beaucoup plus sûre d'elle-même, ne fût-ce que pour se défendre, ne fût-ce que pour se détacher du poids des traditions. Et je pense que s'il faut changer les mentalités, l'éducation est un élément important. Et les artistes, bien évidemment, par leur travail, peuvent contribuer, peuvent aider le secteur éducatif à lutter contre les MGF et à sensibiliser les filles et les garçons et les hommes aussi, comme ça a été dit plus tôt. La deuxième partie, c'est évidemment l'apport des artistes, mais ça, je pourrais le développer un peu plus tard, parce que les artistes touchent à quelque chose de beaucoup plus profond chez tout un chacun, et je le développerai un peu plus tard. Voilà, ça c'est...
Merci. So next we want to, as you all heard, we're going to dig it a bit deeper, and it's so interesting also for me to see an exchange of having such perspectives from both activists, also how important it is to involve men in this fight, but also from policymakers and creators. So thank you all for being here. This time I will start with Maria Monica. As a policymaker, what can you tell us about the policy initiatives of the European Commission when it comes to tackling FGM and gender-based violence at large? Are there any good practices you would like to highlight, both in terms of content as well as policymaking processes? Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, the Commission is strongly committed to ending all forms of gender-based violence. To mention a very recent initiative and a concrete example of the Commission being engaged to do so, the renewed Schengen information system by the 7th of March will provide national authorities with a new alert category to prevent the travel of potential identified victims of gender-based violence, including FGM. So as was mentioned before, very often FGM, almost in all cases, it takes place outside the territory of the Union. So it is important that as far as potential victims are still on the territory of the Union, relevant actors take action to prevent that travel from taking place. But the commitment to end FGM appears in a number of strategies and action plans that the Commission proposed and that were adopted at Union level, like the Rights of the Child strategy or the Union Action Plan on Democracy. But more central to this endeavor is the gender equality strategy, which as one of the goals of this strategy is to end violence against women in general. And to this effect, the strategy announced in particular two initiatives. I've already touched upon those. The first is the proposal for a directive, which was adopted on the 8th of March, and as MEP Insir was underlying, is the first Union instrument, the first legislative initiative in this area. The proposed directive, as you all know, proposes to criminalize FGM according to a common definition at Union level and indicates a maximum level of penalties for this offense. But the proposal also requires member states to put in place a number of support measures for FGM survivors, like, for example, gynecological, sexological, psychological, and trauma care and counseling. And these free of charge and for as long as necessary after the offense has been perpetrated. As I was saying, the gender equality strategy also announced the initiative of this recommendation on preventing harmful practices against girls and women. And of course, a central attention will be put on the practice of female genital mutilation. The recommendation in particular is meant to identify targeted and concrete actions that member states will be recommended to undertake to tackle harmful practices effectively. And now, moving to the other question, the next question, good practices from the policy making point of view. The most important one, in my view, is to formulate legislative and policy initiatives on the basis of inputs gathered from studies and thorough consultation of stakeholders which are active on the ground, NGOs, international organizations, CSOs, etc. To prepare the recommendation, for example, we have opened a call for evidence. We have held a number of workshops with NGOs specialized and active on the ground of the various forms of harmful practices, and we have set up seminars with academia and Council of Europe representatives to gather food for thoughts and to be able to formulate recommendations which are meaningful and effective. Also to inform the preparation of the proposed directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence, the Commission consulted extensively with stakeholders through an open public consultation and various targeted consultations. It analyzed international standards, consulted bodies like the AGE, etc. And finally, content-wise, I believe that the most effective best practice is to take a holistic approach. For example, the focus of the recommendation on harmful practices goes from the root causes of harmful practices to the reinsertion of victims in society. Also, the proposed directive does not only criminalize certain forms of gender-based violence, but caters for the protection and support that this specific category of victims need for. I think I can stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Emmanuel, the role of men in eliminating gender-based violence and FGM in particular is also very important, and something, of course, that you work with as a change maker. What results and good practices can you share with us today?
Thank you so much. Before I go on with the result that we've had, it will be also interesting to know how, as change maker, we are also working on the ground. For example, myself, I'm so much in various organizations. We have the Ghana Union, we have Afro-Deutscher Verein. All these organizations are roots that we get closer to the communities. So what I would say is like, in terms of the role of men, as we all know, men in such communities are the head of the families. And as head of the family, have the religious power, they have the social power, they have also the financial power, decision-making power, and so on and so forth. With all these in place, it means that if the men say something, or if they come up with a decision, it's really taken very well in the society. So if, for example, as a head of the family, the man says that, okay, in my family, there's no FGM, there's no GBV, there's no EFM, then it holds, because this power has been given. But what we also don't know is most of the men doesn't have knowledge about all these things. And as part of our awareness raising program, which was organized by Lisan, we realized that after talking to some of the men in influential positions, it was really interesting to know that these awareness, apart from that, people were talking about maybe sexual pleasure or something like that. They didn't know about the trauma that the woman goes in. They don't know about the psychological effect that they go in. They don't know also about the health issues that happens. And all these things goes on and on and on. And in the other way around is also the women also do it also for the men. So it's really not so easy to say that the women are all championing for FGMC and then men are just relaxing. At this point, I will also say that as long as we have other centers, counseling centers for women, there should be also counseling centers for the men, because they don't really have it and they don't really go for this counseling. And that is what Lisan in this position have really participated and helped in also combating. For example, in the project that is really running now, Men Standing Up for Gender Equality, Amplifying Change, these awareness have increased the activities in the communities where the men are really participating. And we will really, really thank the European Union for giving us, supporting this project. And we hope that it will continue, because the work is so tough. And the thing is, we have to go to the communities. We go to the, like, if I say communities, in other words, go to the grassroots, where we really talk to the people on the ground, where we really talk to the leaders of various organizations, religious tradition, cultural, whatever you actually name them. And I would just have to mention that some in this effect, because sometimes it's a little bit abstract, have chosen maybe to go to a theater or have poetry slam or history or like the art way to really educate the boys and men to see that this is not only the fight for our mothers or girls or wives, but it's also a fight from our side. And it doesn't make you a less man if you get married to somebody who is not FGM. So these are some of the things that I will end us really, and these are some of the things that we, or myself and my colleagues, are championing on the grassroots with these programs and with Lisanne on our side, and also with the European Union. And we hope that we'll get this project continue and well-funded down there, because otherwise it makes it really difficult for the people to understand. And always we will make, like colleague said, we are really running out of time. Now we have to really increase our campaign to make sure this FGM and GBV stops. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective of working on the ground with the communities. Next, I would like to ask MEP Evin Insir. You've already spoken about some of the main policy initiatives that are happening on the EU level and what the European Parliament is doing around eliminating FGM and on gender-based violence. But could you maybe tell us a little bit more about this, and are they promising, and what is happening in your perspective? Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, the 8th of March, the Commission presented this proposal for a directive, which we, of course, welcomed very warmly. But we also saw that there is possibility to strengthen some areas further, which we have tried to do with our amendments. And when I say we, I mean myself and my co-rapporteur, Frances Fitzgerald. This has been done by the two committees, the committee I myself am serving in, Civil Liberty, Justice, Home Affairs, and the Gender Equality Committee. And right now we are on the phases of going into soon negotiations on the different amendments that have come in from the other groups also. So what we do is that we strengthen the wording and lift not only the physical but also psychological effects, which has been mentioned before, which unfortunately sometimes also is not stressed enough. We know that raising awareness is crucial in this area. Persecution must increase, or not persecution, or rather the impunity must end, and we need to ensure that it's being brought to court and not as it is today, for example, just being not taken seriously enough. And we therefore have highlighted that the relevant health professionals, such as, for example, pediatricians, gynecologists, midwives, and psychological support staffs, actually have knowledge enough. So the knowledge increaseness and awareness needs to really be stressed more than it has been done in the first proposal. And then we have also, as I mentioned, we have included honor crimes as an aggravated circumstance, and of course FGM as a very harmful practice. And the dialogue and discussion need to start at an early age also to ensure that the GBV at large is being combated and being prevented, rather, because the whole goal is to ensure that these harmful practices, the gender-based violence, doesn't exist in our union. But when and if they happen, then there needs to be legislation in place which combats this and ends impunity, and in this also process ensure that the victims get the support that they need, which we unfortunately see very much lack of. And of course, the work within the European Union needs to go hand in hand with the external work also. So, and this is, I'm sitting actually in the Committee of Home Affairs, but I'm also serving in the Committee of Foreign Affairs, and to combat gender-based violence has been, of course, priority issues for me and many of my colleagues in the different committees. So we are trying to do everything we can to also ensure the different kind of support, and that includes, of course, financial support for the projects that work very actively on preventing and showing zero tolerance towards gender-based violence, but also FGM as part of it.
Thank you so much. And on top of what you mentioned before, especially for highlighting how important it is with the preventative measures, the support for survivors, and also that discussion and dialogue and awareness raising needs to start at an early age. Now I would like to, of course, give the floor to Roland Zanga again. However, before I do that, we would like to show a little video showcasing your artwork. So if we could please play the video, please.
L'art a cet avantage de pouvoir toucher les cœurs et les esprits. L'art est tellement lié à l'histoire de l'humanité que c'est, je pense, une part essentielle de la nature humaine. Et cette part de nous-mêmes peut être un vecteur important pour véhiculer les pensées et les messages cruciaux, fondamentaux pour l'humanité, quel que soit le lieu ou la culture concernée. La lutte contre les mutilations génitales féminines peut et doit être servie par ce grand vecteur au cœur de l'humanité, ce grand vecteur qu'est l'art. Les mutilations génitales féminines sont une réelle injustice faite aux femmes. Aucune société n'a jamais progressé réellement sur l'injustice. Se battre contre les mutilations génitales féminines, c'est se battre contre l'injustice. J'ai toujours cru que la meilleure manière de lutter contre l'obscurité est de mettre de la lumière. La meilleure manière de lutter contre le désespoir est de mettre de l'espoir. Le tableau Regard d'espoir montre des femmes et des hommes souriant et regardant dans la même direction. Des personnes d'âge et de conditions différentes dirigeant ensemble leurs regards et leurs efforts vers un futur lumineux, prometteur, sans mutilation génitale féminine, et où la justice pour tous est une réalité. Je m'appelle Roland Zanga et je suis un artiste engagé dans la lutte contre les mutilations génitales féminines aux côtés du programme conjoint UNFPA-UNICEF.
Thank you for showing the video. Roland, can you please give us a little bit of perspective of what you think the role of civil society at large is, including artists, in supporting the anti-FGM movement?
Tout à fait, merci beaucoup. Pour répondre à la question posée, j'aimerais d'abord dire que les artistes occupent une place très particulière dans la société civile. Consacrer sa vie à la création artistique, c'est donner son temps, son énergie vitale, sa personne, pour une écoute de soi, du monde, pour raconter, chercher et rencontrer. La création artistique porte en elle la puissance nécessaire pour raconter le monde tel qu'il est, mais aussi tel que l'on voudrait qu'il soit. Alors, pour l'apport de la société civile et des artistes, je pense que, premièrement, les artistes peuvent utiliser leur propre plateforme. Ils ont un public, ils ont une écoute, leur propre plateforme pour sensibiliser aux dangers des MGF et sensibiliser également aux efforts qui sont faits pour éliminer ces pratiques. Les leaders de la société civile peuvent aider à mobiliser les communautés sur cette question. Les artistes et les leaders de la société civile peuvent organiser des campagnes éducatives, ça je le dis plutôt par rapport à l'éducation, pour informer les jeunes filles et les femmes sur les dangers des MGF et les alternatives, les pratiques alternatives aux MGF. Et enfin, il y a la possibilité pour les leaders de la société civile d'appuyer les politiques mises en œuvre auprès des populations et ils donc peuvent travailler avec les autorités pour faire en sorte que ces politiques soient mises en œuvre de manière plus efficace. Alors, par rapport aux artistes, l'apport particulier des artistes, comme je l'ai dit, les artistes ont déjà un public. Ils ont des gens qui les écoutent, en tout cas ceux qui produisent des œuvres visibles. Et ils ont donc un capital de sympathie par rapport à ce public. Et ils peuvent donc plus facilement amener ce public à s'intéresser et à comprendre des problématiques telles que les MGF. Alors, une chose aussi importante, c'est que les artistes touchent le cœur et les émotions des gens. Ils amènent tout un chacun à s'identifier à une problématique abordée. Donc, ils peuvent donc contribuer à changer la perception des choses. Et donc, c'est une porte ouverte vers l'évolution des mentalités. On a tous en tête un film, un roman, une œuvre qu'on a lue, qui nous a touchés et qui nous a émus. Et par ce biais-là, on peut effectivement amener les gens à être interpellés par des questions telles que les MGF. Et enfin, les artistes, et l'ont toujours fait, ils amènent l'imaginaire, ils amènent la visualisation d'un monde possible. On pense aux romans d'anticipation, ça peut être des romans tout à fait terribles ou des romans tout à fait idylliques. Et on peut imaginer que les artistes, de cette manière-là, donnent corps à un monde plus juste, un monde sans violence, un monde sans MGF, justement. Voilà, ça c'est pour moi la part que les artistes et la société civile peuvent apporter.
Merci. Thank you so much. I would now like to ask our co-host, MEP Herzberger Fofana, to join us to hear a little bit from your long-standing work with communities and being such an ally in working against FGM, on some of your thoughts and reactions on this topic. So maybe you can take my seat and join us here. No, please come up here, also because afterwards there'll be some questions. So we just want her to join you on the panel.
Voilà, alors bon après-midi à tout le monde et je suis très heureuse de voir que nous avons encore un panel aujourd'hui où c'est la journée internationale de la tolérance zéro à l'égard des mutilations génitales féminines. Donc les mutilations, je ne vais pas vous répéter ce que vous savez, mais on va aller un pas plus loin. Le pas plus loin, nous avons eu d'abord les activistes qui ont travaillé dans ce domaine. Ensuite, nous avons essayé de gagner à notre cause les leaders religieux, parce que les leaders religieux sont les personnes importantes dans pratiquement toutes les communautés qui ont des chances de changer les mentalités. Si vous demandez, par exemple, c'est un exemple, je ne dis pas que les musulmans le font, c'est un exemple, bien comprendre. Lorsque vous parlez à un musulman, il vous dit, je le dis et je le répète parce que parfois on tourne après les choses, et moi mon père est musulman, donc problème résolu. Beaucoup vous disent, c'est écrit dans le Coran. Non, c'est pas écrit dans le Coran. Ce qui est écrit dans le Coran, c'est exactement lorsque Habiba a demandé au prophète, paix à son âme, est-ce que je dois faire l'excision? Il a répondu, voilà sa réponse, si tu excises, n'excise pas trop afin que l'homme et la femme aient leur plaisir. C'est bien autre chose que ce que tout le monde comprend. Et tout le monde comprend et vous affirme main sur le cœur que c'est ça. Donc pour dire, il nous a fallu gagner d'abord les leaders religieux. Toutes les communautés. Donc ça a été d'abord je prends le cas du Sénégal où j'ai travaillé sur le terrain et le Mali où j'ai travaillé aussi sur le terrain en tant que membre de Forward Germany à l'époque. C'était en 1998. Nous étions la deuxième organisation à s'être organisée en Allemagne. Et donc nous avons soutenu beaucoup d'organisations dans les pays. Et donc lorsqu'on va dans les communautés, les gens sont convaincus que si on n'excise pas une fille, on agit contre la religion. Non, on leur a bien expliqué, dans certaines communautés, ça fonctionne, dans d'autres, ça ne fonctionne pas. Pour ça, il fallait la voix des leaders religieux. Et lorsqu'on a pu réussir à avoir la voix des leaders religieux à notre cause, que ce soit les leaders que ce soit les leaders musulmans, nous avons le système des confréries au Sénégal, ceux de la Tidjania ou bien les Mourides. On avait fait, c'était le premier pas en avant. Après, on s'est adressé aux leaders catholiques et entre autres au cardinal de la ville de Dakar, l'ancien cardinal, le cardinal Thiandoum, qui aussi, parce que nous avons au Sénégal, et c'est valable pratiquement pour tous les pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, Sénégal, Guinée, Mali, vous avez des communautés chrétiennes, vous avez des communautés africaines. Les communautés chrétiennes, en général, pratiquent moins, mais il existe toujours des groupes. Les interprètes, est-ce que je ne parle pas trop vite parce que je m'emballe dans mon sujet? Ok, merci. Ok. Oui, parce que quand on commence quelque chose qu'on truc, on ne fait pas attention qu'il y en a une qui doit traduire. Ok. Donc, on s'est adressé donc au leader, donc le cardinal, afin qu'il puisse préparer les prêtres aussi, et que les prêtres se sont adressés au Sénégal. On a, par exemple, dans le sud du Sénégal, la majorité des gens sont catholiques, mais pratiquent l'excision. Vous voyez donc que ça n'a rien à voir. Donc, c'était le deuxième point. Lorsque nous avons été en Égypte, lors de la conférence, la grande conférence que nous avons eue en 2008, avec le Inter-African Committee, c'est-à-dire le comité interafricain comité interafricain pour la lutte contre les traditions contraires à la santé de la femme et de la fille. En français, c'est plus long qu'en anglais. Et là, on a pu avoir les coptes, l'église copte. Nous avons parlé aussi aux prêtres de l'église copte. Et les prêtres de l'église copte nous ont dit exactement la même chose. Non, nous avons bien sûr des gens qui font cela, mais dans notre religion, quand on est copte, ça n'existe pas. Donc ça a été, après les leaders, il a fallu maintenant s'adresser également aux maîtres coraniques, parce que tout ça, ça n'aide pas. Ça, c'est à un niveau assez haut. Il faut s'adresser aux personnes qui, elles, vont travailler sur le terrain. Ce sont donc les maîtres coraniques. Et il a fallu aussi les former. C'était le deuxième point. Par la suite, il a fallu maintenant gagner à notre cause les sages-femmes. Alors, il faut savoir qu'en général, les mutilations génitales féminines sont pratiquées par des femmes. Ce sont des matrones. Ce sont des matrones qui jouissent d'une honorabilité. Elles sont très reconnues au moins dans les 3 pays d'Afrique que je connais et dont je suis originaire. Elles sont reconnues par la population. Ce sont des personnes d'honneur. Donc, il va falloir gagner ces matrones-là en leur disant « Il est vrai que vous pratiquez les mutilations génitales féminines, mais est-ce que vous connaissez les conséquences sur le plan santé ?» En général, les matrones ont leur savoir. Par exemple, si je prends le cas du Mali, au Mali, c'est une caste bien précise qui fait ça. Et donc, elles ont leur savoir de mère en fille. De mère en fille, elles se passent le savoir et elles arrivent à exciser. Si vous parlez à une matrone, la première des choses qu'elle va vous dire, si vous lui dites « Oui, mais si vous faites les mutilations, il y a des risques de meurtre », elle va faire des tentatives de suicide, les traumatismes. Ça, c'est les grands mots qu'on utilise en Europe. Ils n'ont on ne peut pas les utiliser en Afrique. D'abord, de un, ils ne sont pas transmissibles. On ne peut pas les traduire. Moi, je ne saurais pas traduire dans aucune langue africaine traumatisme. Vous saurez traduire, vous ? En langue africaine, non. Donc, vous n'y arriverez pas. Donc, on ne peut pas aller avec des mots que les gens ne comprennent pas. On leur dit, vous êtes des femmes qui sont en même temps des conseillères conjugales. C'est ça qu'on ne doit pas oublier. Elles ne sont pas que des matrones, elles sont aussi des conseillères conjugales. Par exemple, si je prends le cas de la Somalie, lorsque les femmes sont infibulées, et la première nuit de noces, c'est la matrone que l'on appelle pour ouvrir la femme afin que la première nuit de noces puisse se passer. Dans les autres pays, en Afrique de l'Ouest, par exemple, ce sont les matrones qui font ces excisions-là. Elles sont convaincues de leur savoir, mais il faut leur dire qu'elles n'ont aucune expérience scientifique. Elles ne savent pas ce qui peut se passer. Il peut y avoir des septicémies, il peut y avoir des fistules qui vont se produire. Tout cela, elles ne connaissent pas. Et il a fallu donc leur expliquer qu'elles peuvent continuer dans ce domaine-là, mais de savoir que voilà les conséquences que les jeunes filles pourraient avoir. Et est-ce qu'on ne peut pas les gagner à notre cause en leur disant, puisque vous connaissez la médecine traditionnelle. Moi, je me donne un exemple bien précis. Moi, je me souviens quand j'étais jeune et que j'avais les règles, excusez, mais c'était comme ça, c'était notre bonne, notre domestique, elle nous faisait un thé et je vous garantis que les maux de ventre s'arrêtaient. Bon, seulement à l'époque, personne n'a pensé à demander c'était quoi qu'elle faisait comme thé. Et donc, c'est ce qu'on a essayé de travailler dans ce sens-là. Ces matrones-là qui ont donc un savoir un savoir traditionnel, c'est de le reprendre, lui dire « vous ne perdez pas votre savoir, vous ne perdez pas votre honorabilité, vous continuerez à être présente dans la vie des jeunes filles, mais on pourrait changer cela d'abord en vous expliquant les conséquences qu'il peut y avoir, les conséquences purement médicales avec les jeunes filles et aussi les femmes. Et surtout, malheureusement, au moins en Afrique de l'Ouest, dès qu'une femme a des problèmes, tout de suite, c'est soit le mauvais œil, c'est le mauvais œil, c'est la malédiction, c'est tout ce qu'on veut, mais sauf les conséquences d'une mauvaise mutilation qui n'a pas été bien faite. Et donc, il a fallu les expliquer qu'il est possible que la mutilation qu'elle fasse n'est pas très bonne. Donc, ça a été le deuxième pas. Aujourd'hui, je me suis réjouie de voir qu'il y a des artistes. Oui, merci beaucoup, parce que c'est vrai ce que vous avez dit tout de suite, j'ai même pris note. Vous dites, les artistes, ils sont dans le domaine de l'imaginaire, oui, de l'imaginaire, de la vision. Donc, les artistes peuvent aussi, grâce à leur, je vous cite indirectement, grâce à leur campagne éducative, elles peuvent changer les mentalités, car vous adressez au cœur et à l'émotion. Ce que vous dites, nous l'avons eu, c'est très bien, ce n'est pas une critique, bien au contraire, je souhaite que ça continue. Nous avons eu en l'an 2000. En l'an 2000, nous avons réussi à avoir les artistes nigérians, des artistes nigérians qui ont fait des toiles, des très belles, vraiment c'était très bien, et on a eu une exposition à travers toute l'Allemagne. Je regarde un instant, 2 minutes. OK ? Et donc, je trouve très bien si maintenant les artistes s'impliquent, mais tout cela, c'est très bien tant que les hommes, les princes charmants, comme je les appelle, ne disent pas « on va épouser des femmes qui ne sont pas excisées ». Parce qu'à quoi ça va servir ? Les femmes ne vont pas être excisées. Que va faire une femme si une mère de famille, elle reste sur les bras, comme on dit littéralement, je suis obligée de prendre un autre vocabulaire, elle reste ces 6 filles sur le bras qui ne sont pas excisées parce que personne ne veut les épouser. Et là, ce sont les éducateurs. Et c'est dans ce sens-là que les médiateurs hommes sont importants aussi. Les médiateurs, vous voyez, donc on arrive maintenant, et je trouve vraiment, je suis très ravie qu'on ait eu, donc ce matin on a eu avec beaucoup d'hommes qui nous ont expliqué, oui, nous on est prêts à exposer. C'est une phrase qui est tellement bête. Oui, nous sommes prêts à exposer des femmes qui ne sont pas excisées. Oui, une femme qui n'est pas excisée n'est pas une future prostituée. Ce n'est pas une libertine non plus. Parce que c'est dans la tête de si vous n'êtes pas excisé. Donc, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, en plus, nous, au niveau de l'Union européenne et du Parlement, nous avons eu cette résolution que nous avons votée. Maintenant, on va avoir la directive. Et c'est toujours très bien si ma collègue, on peut avoir plus de collègues qui s'impliquent dans cela. Et peut-être qu'un jour, nous aurons la chance de pouvoir dire on a essayé en Europe, au niveau de l'Union européenne, dans les 26 États. Pour l'instant, il n'y a que la moitié des États, les 13 États ont des lois qui sont très dures. L'Allemagne a fait autre chose. Le dernier pas, c'est la lettre de protection que nous avons sortie, qui a été sortie par une NGO allemande avec le ministère de la Famille. Et cette lettre de protection, vous pouvez la tirer sur le site de la famille. Donc c'est terminé. Voilà, terminé. Je trouve que c'était très bien. Merci beaucoup aux organisateurs, aux collègues, aux artistes, à tous ceux. Et on va continuer. Peut-être qu'un jour, on va tous se retrouver et dire nous avons tous travaillé très dur et nous avons réussi. Merci de m'avoir invité aussi à ce rapide monologue. Okay.
Merci beaucoup to MEP Herzberger Fofana for your words. Thank you so much. So thank you once again for your reactions and your words. And in particular, it was very interesting to hear what you were talking about when it comes to religious discrimination. In fact, actually, the End FGM EU European Network is doing a paper this year exploring the intersection between FGM and religious discrimination. So thank you once again. Now we just have a very short Q&A. We'll have only one question, and then if you want to answer, you're more than welcome to. We will need to keep it a little brief since we're running a little late. Do we have any questions from the audience? Please introduce yourself.
Je pense que tout le monde peut m'entendre. Hein? Voilà, parfait. Donc, je m'appelle, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci beaucoup pour avoir organisé cet événement. Je m'appelle Kéla, je suis juriste au GAMS. Le GAMS, c'est le groupe pour l'abolition des mutilations sexuelles ici en Belgique. Et donc, on fait partie en fait de la coupole End FGM. Et donc, je vais donc faire bref. Une de mes questions, c'était qu'effectivement, je rejoins aussi ce que vous aviez parlé de la lettre de protection, le fait que beaucoup d'excisions, malheureusement, peuvent se produire dans le pays. Donc, c'est-à-dire au cours des vacances. Donc, les petites filles et leurs parents sont ici en Europe, mais malheureusement, l'excision peut se passer dans le pays d'origine. Et donc, je voulais savoir, en fait, ce qui existait, ce qui a été mis en place pour protéger ces petites filles. Ici, en Belgique, nous avons parfois nous travaillons, en fait, avec des organisations comme l'ONE, etc., mais ce n'est pas toujours le cas. Parfois, il nous arrive qu'une école nous appelle et nous dise, ben voilà, il y a une petite fille de 6 ans qui vient de Guinée, elle est partie en vacances, je lui ai souhaité bonnes vacances et malheureusement, elle n'est plus revenue et je ne sais pas si effectivement il y a un problème ou pas dans le pays. Donc, c'est par rapport à ces questions-là que je me demandais si, voilà, quelle était votre position par rapport à ça. Et donc, je voulais juste aussi une deuxième chose, dire qu'il y a parfois des réseaux qui sont sur place, parce que c'est aussi important de travailler avec les organisations sur place. Et donc, il y a un réseau qui s'appelle COP. C'est un réseau qui est fait de praticiens qui sont dans le pays, qui luttent aussi contre les MGF. Et donc, voilà, je voulais savoir quelle était votre position par rapport à ce type d'organisation, de réseau. Est-ce que vous trouvez que, oui, évidemment, on peut soutenir, est-ce qu'on peut encore aller plus loin dans le soutien par rapport à cette approche un petit peu d'aide entre les pays européens et les pays qui sont là-bas concernés? Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I will actually open the floor and see if anyone would like to volunteer to maybe try and answer the question, and also if you want to say any concluding remarks before we close this panel. Please, Monica.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Votre question me donne l'occasion justement de mettre en évidence le rôle différent de la proposition de directive et de la recommandation qui sera adoptée cette année encore. La directive, à ce sujet, comme le membre du Parlement ici l'indiquait, prévoit que la criminalisation de FGM s'applique aussi lorsque un national d'un État membre, non, le vocabulaire en français me manque. Yeah. Oh non, je parle français, je suis à l'aise. Vous pouvez aussi intervenir, bien sûr. Juste pour dire, il y a une disposition dans la directive qui assure l'extraterritorialité de la persécution de la mutilation génitale féminine. Cela, c'est pour le côté droit et loi, disons. La recommandation qui verra le jour au cours de cette année, elle mettra en évidence des bonnes pratiques qui ont été mises en place au sein de certains États membres, justement pour prévenir les voyages d'excision. Et quelqu'un avait déjà mentionné, peut-être vous, la pratique des passeports FGM. C'est toute une série de bonnes pratiques qui consistent à, informer les parents que même si pratiquée dans le pays d'origine, la mutilation est criminalisée, qui risque donc des conséquences pénales dans l'État membre et qui risque aussi de ne pas pouvoir résider dans l'État membre dans le futur, etc. Mais si vous voulez complémenter.
Juste uniquement notre expérience avec la fameuse lettre de protection. letter of protection que l'on a et que j'ai dit, elle est traduite dans 27 langues, elle est dans toutes les langues, elle est sur le site. Nous ne parlons pas de criminalisation quand nous allons dans les pays, pour la raison toute simple que nous travaillons avec beaucoup de NGO sur place, en Guinée et au Mali. Dans la lettre de NGO, il est bien précisé aux parents, si vous laissez exciser votre fille dans votre pays, donc le pays des parents, on vous retire le permis de séjour, vous n'aurez plus la possibilité de travailler. Évidemment, ça peut paraître très dur, mais je dois vous dire qu'en ce qui concerne l'Allemagne, on a tout essayé. Et rien n'a fonctionné. Et là, lorsqu'on l'a fait en 2020, lorsqu'on l'a fait en 2020, il y a eu le Covid. Maintenant, on a eu l'année dernière, pour la première fois, donc les premiers résultats des parents, parce que beaucoup de parents, il ne faut pas l'oublier, lorsqu'ils vont dans les pays, ils subissent la pression de la famille. Si je prends le cas du Sénégal, au Sénégal, ce n'est pas tellement le père et la mère qui ont quelque chose à dire, mais c'est la sœur du père. Donc, vous voyez, il faut connaître tout le contexte culturel. Donc, c'est la sœur du père. Donc, si on pénalise le père, qui lui, en fait, il n'a jamais donné son accord, ça aussi, c'est pas correct. Et à ce moment-là, ce que nous, on fait, nous avons les organisations sur place. Dans ces 3 pays, nous avons des organisations avec lesquelles nous travaillons. Lorsque nous savons, mais ça, il faut le savoir, lorsque nous savons que quelqu'un va dans le pays, si quelqu'un va en Guinée, si quelqu'un va au Mali, si quelqu'un va au Sénégal, nous pouvons donner le nom des organisations. Il y a la possibilité, soit dès son arrivée, l'organisation prend contact avec la personne et cette personne-là qui est sur place, elle va essayer, pour le cas du Sénégal, par exemple, de parler à la tante. Parce que c'est elle qui va décider, le père, et que ce ne serait pas correct de punir quelqu'un qui n'a pas donné son accord, qui se trouve encore en Allemagne et on excise sa fille dans son dos. On est arrivé à ce temps. Donc c'est dans ce cadre-là que nous travaillons comme cela. En ce moment, il semblerait, d'après les premières, elles ne sont pas terminées, les premières évaluations, qu'il y a eu moins de filles qui ont été excisées l'année dernière, parmi toutes celles qui sont parties, parce que la tante, on va lui dire, tu excises, tu sais ce qui arrive, toutes les familles africaines en général aident les familles au pays, eh ben, les 100 et 200 euros que tu reçois par mois, ils ne reviendront plus. Parce que le père n'aura plus de travail. Donc tu pénalises ton frère, en d'autres termes. Et voilà, et c'est comme ça qu'on a réussi, vous savez, c'est un peu bête à dire, mais quand on parle argent, les gens ils comprennent très vite, oui, que vous n'aurez plus d'argent parce que vous l'avez pénalisé, parce qu'il a perdu son travail. Et là, on a déjà quelques cas. Bien sûr, nous n'avons pas dans tous les pays, et c'est peut-être le GAMS, je connais très bien le GAMS, c'est toute la bande vous avez fêté les 40e avec nous, 40e anniversaire, félicitations au GAMS. Oui, donc c'est de travailler dans ce sens-là avec les groupes sur place et je vous assure qu'on pourrait avoir, et comme je dis, la lettre de protection, il ne faut pas voir ça, c'est les Allemands, c'est l'Allemagne, non, c'est pour tout le monde. Oui. Et je sais qu'en Afrique, lorsqu'on dit on a 70 000 femmes excisées en Allemagne, tout le monde ouvre de grands yeux, il y en a encore 20 000 qui risquent, tout le monde ouvre aussi les grands yeux. Mais je pense que ça, c'est une façon, dans ce cadre, puisque vous êtes pratiquement toutes dans les réseaux, dans le même réseau, le réseau End FGM, c'est là où on peut travailler tous ensemble, que ce soit les SON et tout ça, et avoir la possibilité au moins de réduire cela sans pénaliser injustement les parents. Hein? Parce que ça aussi, c'est important, il ne faut pas... Voilà. Bon, merci beaucoup. Je voulais juste reprendre, bien sûr, je ne vais pas vous...
We will share the link as well to the information of the letter of protection, as you have very well outlined as well. I believe we are running out of time, so I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to, I don't know, I think if you might have to leave soon, or so.
Yes.
If you want to say a couple of words before you leave.
Yes, I unfortunately need to leave to the committee meeting. We have voting this afternoon also. But thank you very much for once again initiating this discussion. As been very much stressed, this is a certain type of violence that really shouldn't exist 2023, but still does. And I mean, it's to deprive, to cut in somebody else's body without the person's consent, it doesn't go into my head that it's even possible to do it. And it is an echo from a medieval time that we need to prevent and we need to combat with all the tools that are possible. And we need to support all those actors, of course, that are working with this issue or to prevent it. And that also includes, of course, women and girls, the allies to women and girls all around the world, because those who are conducting FGM needs to understand that it is not, it will never be accepted. And if it happens, impunity will not continue existing. So you need to understand that there will be consequences of harming somebody else. And usually it is very small children it also happens towards, which are, those most vulnerable in our groups. And we always say that how the well-being of a society is founded in how we treat the most vulnerable groups in our societies. And this really shows that we have quite a lot to do within the European Union, but also beyond. And just a final maybe answer on the question of when FGM happens outside the EU borders. As I mentioned previously in one of my interventions, it's not about where it happens. It is if you live in the European Union, you're brought out of the border of the European Union, and that per se is a crime. So it's not about where it happens, we need to step up our efforts to combat this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for being here today and for co-hosting this event. We will, even if you leave, we will conclude this, continue concluding this panel. Emmanuel and Roland, if you want to say some concluding remarks, once again, I do ask you to keep it brief since we are running a little bit over time.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. And then running out for this occasion, I would say I will tackle on what he said about the local, when local, whether it's in Africa or the local, whether here in Europe. I still iterate on my point that we have to see how we can reach the communities. Because for me, for example, I thought FGM is issue of yesterday, because in Ghana it became illegal in 1992, and it's really reduced, or it's already gone. But so it's illegal there, and if you are caught, you are imprisoned anyway. So until 2001, when Lisanne communicated to the locals, like we on the ground, I didn't know that it was even happening. So it's good that we still go to the communities. We have to talk to the community leaders and then see. So on all these things, I'll come back to my point that I raised, that the EU, though helping already, should also continue to fund the locals so that we can do the work that's supposed to be. Because if we sit here and then discuss and it's not being channeled to the communities, we don't have the chance. So on this note, I would say I thank Lisanne for giving us this opportunity, for giving us also this brief, this letter that we campaign around so many languages, for getting us on board. And I thank you, the moderators, and I thank everybody who helped in organizing this event. And I'm always ready to come on board also to assist this fight against GBV and FGM as well. Thank you so much.
Juste pour revenir un peu à ce que j'ai dit tout à l'heure, les artistes peuvent vraiment apporter beaucoup dans cette lutte, sur le plan éducatif et, comme je l'ai dit, sur le plan du changement des mentalités, de la manière dont je l'ai expliqué. Surtout que la question des MGF touche à d'autres thèmes qui sont liés. Les thèmes de l'éducation, j'en ai parlé, mais aussi, par exemple, le thème du mariage précoce, le thème de l'égalité de genre, etc. Et ce sont autant de thèmes que nous, les artistes, nous pouvons nous approprier pour pouvoir aider à changement des mentalités et à l'évolution de la société. Voilà. Merci.
Merci. a warm thank you to all of you, to Maria Mollica, to Emmanuel Osewusu, to Roland Zanka, as well as, of course, to MEP Fofana for your remarks and for your considerations to this panel. Thank you very much. Now, we will do a bit of a change around of the setting, and I'm going to ask Miriam to join me on the podium. It is my pleasure now to introduce our Senior Communications and Campaigns Officer, Miriam Mamedi, who will be presenting our 2023 annual campaign, A Roadmap to End FGM. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, yes. Thank you so much, Anna. After this very rich panel discussion, it is my absolute honor to introduce the End FGM EU 2023 annual campaign. So every year, the network focuses our communication on one aspect of the work behind ending FGM. And slide. Thank you. This year, we are so excited to use our platform to highlight grassroots voices and grassroots expertise, as well as good practices to prevent and respond to female genital mutilation. Today, we heard from men engaged in the movement to end FGM in line with the overall theme of Zero Tolerance Day proposed by UNFPA on male engagement. We also heard from policy actors engaged every day on this issue. And throughout the year, we will hear from another variety of voices from the grassroots, from survivors to youth voices, youth activists, as well as key professionals and other policy actors at national and European level. So with our 2030 deadline fast approaching, we need to focus basically on what works to end female genital mutilation. And so this year we will ask ourselves, what is the best path to end FGM, and what can people on the ground teach us about the road to end FGM, which is our hashtag. Slide, thank you. This campaign will be closely linked to the mapping that we have done of laws, policies, and services in Europe. And you can find this mapping in the first ever FGM in Europe interactive map that we have launched a couple years ago, and that we have just updated with the addition of Malta, and that will soon be updated with the addition of Austria, and that will complete it to 16 countries where we have members. Slide. We will also hear from the community activists which we engage with through our work, through the ambassadors program, the youth ambassadors program, where we have youth activists engaged, and the senior ambassadors program, where we have other senior activists engaged within their community to address FGM and prevent it on the ground. We will also hear from the community voices that we connect with through the Understanding Community Voices project, which is this year led by two of my colleagues. And so through this coupling of the grassroots voices and the mapping of good practices, we hope to advocate for the implementation and upscaling of the good practices that we have identified in Europe. Slide. We finally hope to hear from you within this campaign, and that you will support us as well. We hope that you will be able to share your own voice or amplify the voices of others working on female genital mutilation. So please join us on the road to end FGM. And final slide, please. Thank you. So yes, this is our annual campaign. We're super, super excited to launch it today, and it will go on from today until December 2023. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. We're very excited about this campaign. I'm so happy to be launching it here with you today. Now we are very excited to continue sharing with all of you about the road to end FGM in Europe and beyond. And speaking of going beyond the European context, our next speaker is going to talk about the bridges that exist between the internal efforts and external action to end FGM. It is my honor to give the floor to the Belgian Minister of Development, Cooperation and Major Cities Policy, Caroline Genet.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear members of parliament, they are gone, but still, I'm really happy that they were here. And of course, you all members of the End FGM European network. I am really honored to have the opportunity to speak to you here today, but I'm even more grateful to have had the opportunity to listen for like 1 hour and a half, because your experience strengthened my resolve to continue our fight to end violence against women and girls and female genital mutilation in particular. Everyone in this room is familiar with the data. More than 200 million girls and women are affected by FGM. In 25 countries around the globe where FGM is commonly practiced, every year an estimated 4 million girls are at risk. That amounts to more than 28 million girls that will undergo FGM between now and 2030, unless, of course, we take action together. The charge against FGM must first and foremost be led by individuals from the impacted communities. Women and girls who have undergone FGM are not victims. They are survivors. They are the ones who break the cycle by standing up and saying, not my daughter, not my niece, not my cousin, not my friend. But they need not stand alone, of course. Ending FGM requires a broad coalition to join forces across borders. We need the support of grassroots organizations, advocates, governments, spiritual leaders, as mentioned, community leaders, artists, NGOs, and teachers, of mothers, grandmothers, and aunts, and yes, also of men. Because at the root of this harmful practice lies the inequality between men and women. We are ready to do our part. Belgium is and has been a strong supporter of gender equality, both in our internal and foreign policies. We are fully committed to eliminating gender-based violence, including FGM, here in Belgium, but also in our partner countries of development cooperation. In 2017, Belgium was one of the initiators of the She Decides movement, a global movement that fights for the right of women and girls to self-determination. And in a world where she decides, there can be no FGM. Last year, the Belgian International Solidarity made its first contribution to the joint programme of UNFPA and UNICEF to end FGM. In the last decade, most countries supported by this joint programme have implemented a law banning FGM. As of 2021, the programme galvanized 45 million community members to publicly denounce the practice. It has helped more than 6 million girls and women to access prevention and response services. The joint programme also enabled more than 50 million people to participate in education and social mobilization activities promoting the elimination of FGM. The Belgian Development Agency INABEL also supports awareness-raising campaigns on ending FGM in partner countries Senegal and Burkina Faso. In the latter, Annabelle supported the drafting and implementing of the country's national action plan to end violence against women. Survivors can also seek medical support for the aftermath of FGM and la Centre Mère-Enfant in Tenkondogo. In Senegal, Annabelle assisted in setting up monitoring and alert units conducted by community actors and former practitioners. In Belgium, we have the excellent GAMS organization that tracks the prevalence of FGM in the country. In their fourth study, they estimate that more than 23,000 women and girls living in Belgium have been subjected to the practice, with 12,000 girls being at risk in the near future. Besides providing data, GAMS also builds bridges between professionals and activists around the world to fight against FGM on an international scale through the community of practice on female genital mutilation. Besides advocacy and awareness raising, universal access to sexual and reproductive health care and rights and to education are crucial to eradicate FGM. There are also two other major priorities of Belgian international solidarity. Access to education for women and girls especially is a catalyst for progress and prosperity. Due to our collective efforts, support for FGM is waning around the world, and governments are taking action to stamp out the practice. Although we have made significant progress in the past few decades, our work is far from done. We must remain vigilant and protect what we have already gained. Unfortunately, COVID and the closure of schools around the world has had an adverse effect on the downward trend. We are now seeing a growing trend of medicalizing FGM. While it surely reduced the health-related risks, ensuring a so-called safe medical environment around these harmful practices, which have no health benefits whatsoever, does not make them acceptable. They still are a grave violation of human rights. Let there be no doubt about it. Female genital mutilation is wrong. Harming young girls and women is wrong. Condemning them to a lifetime of pain and trauma is wrong. That is true here, everywhere, and always. FGM is rooted in different cultures and customs, but across continents there is a common thread. It serves no other purpose than to limit women and girls. In a world where men and women would be equal, female genital mutilation would not exist. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight to end FGM is a part of a broader and ongoing struggle for equal rights and bodily autonomy for women and girls. That fight is fought every day all over the world by women and girls demanding to return to school in Afghanistan, by female protesters demanding life and freedom in Iran, women activists standing up for sexual and reproductive health rights in the US, survivors of female genital mutilation in Senegal, Burkina, and Belgium. By ending FGM, we will save the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of girls, and prevent millions from having to undergo a traumatic experience with lifelong consequences. By ending FGM, we will be another step closer to a world where the bodily autonomy of women and girls is guaranteed to the benefit of all. Because claiming the power to decide what to do with their own bodies allows women and girls to thrive. And where women and girls thrive, so do entire communities and society. Thank you so much, and thank you for your fight.
Thank you so much. It was so interesting to hear more about the priorities of Belgium, but also for your inspiring words. I've noted down, for example, in a world where she decides, there can be no FGM. Once again, thank you so much for coming, and it was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. Our last speaker of the day will expand on the points that have just been made and talking about the role of global actors in addressing the practice worldwide. I am honored to have Elena Gasco joining me here from UNFPA's representation office in Brussels to talk a little bit more about UNFPA and the joint program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, colleagues, Minister, I'm very honored and happy to be here today with you to add my voice to say zero tolerance to FGM. Even though, as we already said today, girls, they're 1/3 of girls less likely to be subjected to FGM compared to 3 decades ago, still the progress needs to be at least 10 times faster to meet the global targets by 2030. Estimated $2.4 billion is needed to achieve this goal in 31 targeted countries, but only 1/8 of this amount is expected to be spent, and leaving us with a resource gap of about $2.1 billion. This is obvious that urgent investments and actions to reach sustainable development goals by 2030 are necessary. Today, acknowledging achievements, we also note, as the Minister alluded to as well in her speech, that fight is not over yet. Today, we're celebrating the International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM under the year's theme, which is partnering with men and boys to transform gender and social norms to eliminate FGM. Since 2008, UNICEF and UNFPA have been working to end female genital mutilation through a joint program that have been mentioned already today here across 17 countries. And we are very proud to report impressive achievements of this program. Just to mention some, 14 out of 17 countries supported by the program have passed legislation against FGM. 13 out of 17 countries have enacted a costed national plan to eliminate the harmful practices. And since 2014, over 500,000 girls via the surveillance mechanisms established in the countries have been prevented from undergoing FGM. So we consider those as a very good practice, which has to be replicated and continued. We are very happy and grateful to partner with End FGM EU members, IDOS and GAMS Belgium, who are here today, very happy to see you, who are leading the initiative within the program of the community of practice of professionals and activists from all countries working with FGM. The joint program is generously funded by many governments including European Union as well. And we are especially grateful for 2 new donors, that's being Belgium and Germany. And of course, Sweden as our long-standing partner who contributed generously in 2022. As some of the previous speakers alluded to, their partnership with men and boys can play a crucial role in eliminating the practice, transforming social and gender norms. In fostering the engagement of men and boys, the global community can accelerate the elimination of the practice. And we need new partners. We need a partnership with religious and traditional leaders, health workers, civil society, and artists like Roland, who was present today and is present today. Partnership with men and boys is a proven good practice, which can be the largest, which can provide the largest global impact to end FGM by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, we said it before, and we will say it over and over again, female genital mutilation violates girls' rights, and we must not tolerate this violence. And each of us, governments, members of the parliament, civil society organizations, have a role to play. It is our commitment today and going forward to make our contribution to the world without FGM. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And indeed, thank you also to all the efforts of the joint program, because, yes, it means so much to all the NGOs and all the civil society organizations working against this, including GAMSU and the community of practice. So thank you for being here today, and also our larger thank you as well for joining in this and trying to reach that gap in resources, but to build on that. Thank you. This leads us to me being able to close this event. I would like to thank all of the speakers here today for bringing your contributions, your perspectives on this important mission in trying to work towards End FGM and also working and protecting survivors. I would also like to thank all the co-hosts for joining us and making this event possible. And also a big thank you to the End FGM EU team for organizing this event, and a specific shout out to our communications, senior communications officer and policy and advocacy coordinator, Jenny and Miriam, for spearheading this event. Also, a big thank you to all of you having joined this event both online as well as in the room today. We are very happy that you were here listening, taking an active part. We would also like to ask everyone a small favor. This event is co-funded by the European Union, and therefore we have a little evaluation survey that we would like to ask everyone, which has been shared in the chat. It's also going to be shared via emails afterwards. We would like to ask everyone to fill in, please, since this is, important both to the EU projects, but also for the success of our own funding. It's also important, so please take the time to fill this in. And yes, I hope to continue seeing you all throughout this year during our campaign, and together on the road towards ending FGM. Thank you.